y'all, it's Santana, aka Tana's Book Diary, and I'm back with another video. It's that time of month again. And not that kind. Okay, it's that time of month again. So let's get into what I read in August, and then we'll get into my September hopefuls. So August was a pretty good reading month. I read 5 books, so nice. I'm still behind on my goal, but we won't talk about that. But yeah, 5 books this month, and they kind of were all different genres, different vibes. So the first book I read was actually an audiobook, and it was The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins, which is a prequel to the Hunger Games series. And it basically is about Coriolanus Snow, or President Snow, when he was younger, when he was a student in the Capitol. How the 10th Hunger Games, basically he and his classmates were mentors, and whoever won would receive the Plinth Prize. And so I had seen the movie The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes like a trillion times, and I read The Hunger Games and Catching Fire like back in middle school. So I haven't read Mockingjay, but I was like, I've seen the movies at this point, and I was more interested in reading The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, so I was able to listen to it. And I have to say, they did such a great job at adapting the book into a movie. Usually that's my biggest gripe with book to movie adaptations. They don't honor the book. I get like we only have so much time, you know, max is usually like 2 hours, but I still feel like a lot of movies miss the mark. They just don't want to stick to the story, whether they think it's not gonna like translate well on screen, or they think it'll be boring, or whatever the case. But while listening to this, I literally saw the movie play out in my head. Like, they did a great job. We follow Coriolanus Snow again, so he's like in his teens. We see him as a mentor, but we also see him like struggling financially. We see him having like issues with his social status, his social class, kind of hiding his lack of money, hiding being poor from his classmates, while trying to like uphold this image that his father kind of created for him and his family. We see this internal struggle all throughout the book, honestly, of just like what's right, what's wrong. And there were some times where he was very morally gray, where he could be right. Like, some people could see him as doing the right thing, some people can see him as like being super selfish. So I did like that duality. I also liked that we got to see more of like how he was shaped into the evil man that he became, and that he once was human, and he was broken by the same system that he later upheld like years later, which is crazy. I did notice like some character switches, like Dill, I don't know, randomly, but Dill pops up. Like, she didn't die from drinking the water like she did in the movie. She just died from having tuberculosis, while Wovey was the one who ended up drinking the poisoned water that Lucy Gray set up. It was just interesting, those few changes, but overall, like, it was pretty like spot on, and I enjoyed it. I did give it 4 out of 5 stars, just because like it took me a while to get through. Like, I enjoyed it, but when I wasn't listening to it, I wasn't like, I need to get back. You know what I mean? The second read of August was The Girls Who Grew Big by Layla Motley. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. Like, I annotated this a little bit. You can't really tell, but I thoroughly enjoyed this read. I read this mostly while I was on my beach trip, and though like the themes are not beachy, not chill, not, you know, uplifting a little bit, I enjoyed it because it took place in a beach town in Florida called Prada Beach. So I felt like every time the girls would visit the beach or be at the beach or reference anything coastal, beachy related, I felt like I was kind of there, even though I was far from it in Rehoboth. But I really enjoyed this book. This book gives a different perspective to what it's like being a teen mom, living in a low income area. Like, it kind of shed a lot of light on an area and a group of people that often are marginalized, often are treated so poorly and disregarded because of them having children so young. And I really hate that in this book, as real as it is, the people around them did not support them in the way that they should have, but also didn't reprimand the men in the situation that got them pregnant. And I say men and girls on purpose, because a lot of these girls were impregnated by grown men who knew better. You know what I mean? Like, the youngest of them was like 14. Like, it was kind of hard to read in that sense. These are young girls who are like talking like they're grown because a man told them they were grown, and it's like, you're not. And so I'm more upset at those around them than I am of the actual girls themselves, because they're literally just trying their best to make the most of it for them and their child. We follow the girls, that's literally what they're called. We follow Adela, we follow Simone and Emery, as well as their other friends, and the other mothers are part of the group, the girls. Adela moves from Indiana. She is like a pro swimmer. She had a lot going for her. She was 16 years old, but she ends up pregnant. And so her parents send her during her school year to her grandmother's house in Pointe Beach, where her father is originally from. She is biracial, so that's a key part. So she kind of has like a little bit of a like racial identity crisis when she gets there. A lot of anti-black stereotypes that she places upon people that live in Pointe Beach. A lot of anti-blackness just internally. But we see Adela kind of come to terms with the fact that she is pregnant and that she has to go through 9 months of this unknowingness. And she's kind of like worried about her swim career, if she's going to get back to it. What is the status of her child when she gives birth? Like, she has no connections to the baby father. So she's kind of just like out there, kind of solo, other than her grandmother being there. She meets the girls. So Emery and Simone are best friends. Emery has a son with Simone's younger brother. Simone has twins. Simone is the eldest of the girls, and she is 21, if I'm correct. So her kids are like 4 or 5 years old. So, you know, she's kind of the role model. She's kind of the mentor for all of the girls who come into this group. It's in and out. It's a revolving door of girls that come in and out. No one really stays too long. So we follow mainly them three as they're navigating motherhood, whether newly starting motherhood or they've been in it for a minute. And we also see the different dynamics of familial support. Adela does have her grandmother, though initially she doesn't want her grandma's help. Emery has her grandparents, who are very, very racist. And Simone, her brother, is black. So, you know, we see that dynamic of her having a black son and her trying to be like, well, my grandparents, you know, they have these old ways, but how that affects like how she'll raise her son and how she interacts with her baby father. Like, it's craziness. And then we see Simone, who, you know, recently officially split with her baby father, Tooth, and the craziness he brings is, I don't want to spoil too much, but it's just crazy how men get away with being men. Like, the bar is literally on the floor for them. So we see her dealing with, you know, coming to terms with the fact that she might have been in a grooming situation because he's 27 and she is 21, but they met when she was 16, so he was 21. You know, it's very funky, very murky. But we also see her navigating having twins, and her wanting to reconcile with her family because they did kick her out. So yeah, I have so much to say about this book. I don't want to give it away. I highly, highly, highly recommend this. I saw this literally all over Bookstagram, and I'm so glad I finally got to read it. I would definitely consider rereading it again. I do want to say some trigger warnings. It's very heavy topics. So SA, racism, some homophobia, teen pregnancy, loss of a baby, loss of a child. So just go into this, you know, being kind to yourself, taking your time, no rush. But if you do read it, I know you'll enjoy it. You'll definitely be changed afterwards. Again, if I didn't say it, I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. Definitely one of my favorite reads of August. My third read of the month was Women, Race, and Class by Miss Angela Y. Davis. I gave this 5 stars. I also annotated this one a lot. So if I'm correct, this was like her first book, like some of her first work that was published. This literally just goes into women, race, and class and how they intersect. And though this was written, I want to say in like the 80s, I want to say it's still very relevant to today. And as someone who studied sociology, I really enjoy delving into pre-1920s, women have the right to vote, pre-slavery, slavery. You know, like I love that we kind of got into different sections. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the viewfinder. Like we got into those different sections and how they actually do intertwine with one another. Oh, let me read the summary that's on Goodreads. From one of our most important scholars and civil rights activist icon, a powerful study of the women's liberation movement and the tangled knot of oppression facing Black women. Angela Davis is herself a woman of undeniable courage. The New York Times, Angela Davis provides a powerful history of the social and political influence of whiteness and elitism and feminism from abolitionist days to the present, and demonstrates how racist and classist biases of its leaders inevitably hampered any collective ambitions. While Black women were aided by some activists like Sarah and Angelina Grimmick, and the suffrage cause found unwavering support in Frederick Douglass, many women played on their fears of white supremacists for political gain rather than take an intersectional approach to liberation. Here, Davis does not only contextualize the legacy and the pitfalls of civil and women's rights activists, but also discusses communist women, the murder of Emmett Till, and Margaret Sanger's racism. Davis also shows readers how the inequalities between Black women and white women influence the contemporary issues of rape, reproductive freedom, housework, and childcare in this bold, indispensable work. So, yeah, we just kind of delved into how a lot of white women chose themselves at the end of the day. I don't want to say per usual, but so, you know, there was that conversation of how a lot of white women were like, well, once we get ours, then we'll come back to y'all. But like they never ended up coming back. Like, you know what I mean? Like once we get our rights, we'll turn around and help y'all. When like women's rights, Black people's rights kind of like would have worked better to go hand in hand, but instead it was just like, actually, I really don't care about y'all, I really care about me. Like that's kind of what she said, that way more, you know, in a philosophical way. I just said that crazily, but I thought it was interesting because even now, like, you can see how some people still have a very individual mindset and really don't care about other people, or they use other people until it benefits them. And so it was very interesting. Like they said, the Grimmick sisters like were actively doing the work for all women, especially Black women. There was points in the book where it was talking about like school teachers, like white school teachers who were hosting or holding classes for Black women to become teachers, and they were being tortured, threatened, all types of craziness, and still decided to teach those women because they deserve to be teachers and they deserve to be able to learn as well. And they were about it. They were about it. Fire and sticks and flames and torches did not stop them. And there's a lot of people that can't say they would do the same. So I definitely enjoyed this read, and I would recommend any Angela Davis book to anyone that asks. But this one was really good. My fourth read was on my Kindle, The Mortal Affairs by Granger. This is a prequel. I don't know if it's a prequel because it was kind of like a simultaneous timeline to the first book, but I'm going to say it's the prequel to the Maggie Gray series, which is an HBCU fantasy book. like series. We follow a fae. Her name is Hamora Clark. She works in the Mortal Affairs department, and she is soon paired with Trevor Coleman, who is a mimic. He's very rare in the underground where it takes place, which is also in Atlanta, but the underground of Atlanta. And so the Mortal Affairs department basically deals with all the mortal issues above ground in the real world with the non-magical people, you know what I mean? The regular people like us. So she deals with all the complaints that they might have, if there's any sightings of mythical creatures in the above world, if there's any issues with mythical creatures and mortals. Like, she is that person that handles those issues. And so Trevor, he's coming from Griot, if I'm correct, is the title. And so he's on the ground dealing with all the issues that's underground. He's I guess you could say law enforcement. He is demoted from that job for a period of time because he just is a hothead. He doesn't know how to control his emotions, and because he's a mimic, he shifts without control, and that is very dangerous. So he's working with Amora indefinitely in the Mortal Affair department. And so, like I said, it runs simultaneously with The Secret Life of Maggie Gray. So we see right after the first book, I don't want to spoil it if you haven't read it, but we kind of follow the end of the first book, and we follow it in this point of view of Hamora as she's dealing with calls from mortals hey, we're seeing an uptick in people seeing people shift during the daytime. We're seeing vampires, and we're also dealing with the first family. The first family are civil rights icons, but we find out that they're vampires, and they've lived for hundreds of years, and they're basically fooling everyone. I won't say how or what they're doing exactly, because again, you should read the first book, but we kind of pick up from there. I really like Granger's work. I really like the Maggie Gray series. I have to say the first 2 books of the Maggie Gray series are definitely my favorite. I gave the Mortal Affairs 3 out of 5 stars because, one, it wasn't my favorite. Granger is a big world builder, and with that, sometimes it could feel it's just a lot of information, and sometimes it can be a little redundant. Also, because I read the first book, it felt like we're reliving the first book, the ending of the first book, because it runs in the same timeline. So there were parts that I was like, have I read this before? And it's because they're just kind of retelling what happened in the first book, which I get for refreshing my memory purposes probably, but I don't know. I just felt like it was too much. It was over 500 pages, which again, Granger is notorious for that, and I love that because sometimes I like it being long. I like to see everything. I like that we see kind of the mundane everyday things that they're doing, but I feel like with this one, because it wasn't super high fantasy action packed scenes like the Maggie Gray series, I just wasn't as invested. Usually when she drops a new book, I'm done within a day or 2. This one took me a couple of days, I'm not gonna lie. Did I still read it and enjoy it? I did, but not as much as the other books in the series. So that was my 4th read. My 5th read was also on my Kindle, which I actually read in a day. So anytime I do that, I'm just impressed with myself and the book, because obviously it had to be good for me to do it that quickly. My last read of August was What Happened to Ruthie Ramirez by Claire Jimenez. I really enjoyed this book. It was a page turner. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. We follow the Ramirez family after and during and post losing their sister/daughter, Ruthie Ramirez. So we follow Jess and Nina as they are trying to kind of find their sister Ruthie. It's been about 10 years since their sister disappeared and did not return home from track practice. And one day, Jess is watching trashy reality TV Catfight. Literally is the show title. Catfight, girls fighting each other for no reason show. And she sees this woman who looks just like Ruthie, down to the laugh, the facial expressions, the beauty marks, it's uncanny. And so their younger sister Nina is a little less like sold on the idea that it's actually Ruthie, but she goes along with her sister Jessica, and we just follow them on this whirlwind trying to find this girl who they believe is Ruthie on this TV show, trying to find her, trying to contact her, and really, you know, making an effort to reconnect with their sister. It's an interesting story about how a lot of Black and brown girls go missing and no one cares. They're often labeled as fast, runaways, no one cares about them. And just like delving into their childhood also puts in perspective like why, if they chose to run away, why they would. Again, heavy topics with this one as well. Being a runaway, losing a child, death, essay, child abuse. So again, go in, take your time. It's pretty heavy, but I do like that also, like the sisterhood was highlighted, and yeah, I just enjoyed it, and it got me through my weekend away in Minnesota, so I really enjoyed it. So yeah, that was all my August reads, and I want to quickly just go through my September hopefuls. Some of them you may have seen. I have a little section right here, but I'm going to be really quick. So I really want to read The Revolution Will Not Be Funded, Beyond the Nonprofit Industrial Complex. Really quickly, a $1 trillion industry, the U.S. nonprofit sector is one of the largest economies, from art museums, university hospitals, to think tanks, church charities. Over 1.5 million organizations of staggering diversity share the tax-exempt 501c3 designation, if little else. Many social justice organizations have joined this world, often blunting political goals to satisfy government and foundation mandates. But even as funding shrinks, many activists often find it difficult to imagine movement building outside the nonprofit model. The Revolution Will Not Be Funded gathers essays by radical activists, educators, and nonprofit staff from around the globe who critically rethink the long-term consequences of what they call the nonprofit industrial complex. Drawing on their own experiences, the contributors track the history of nonprofits and provide strategies to transform and work outside them. Urgent and visionary, The Revolution Will Not Be Funded presents a biting critique of a quietly devastating role the nonprofit industrial complex plays in managing dissent. So, I'm excited for this one. I'm just doing rapid fire, y'all. I just got this book in Minnesota, Perfect Victims in the Politics of Appeal by Mohammed El-Kurd. Just picked this up from Black Garnet Books in Minnesota, Black and queer owned, so you guys should definitely check it out if you're ever in the state. Perfect Victims is an urgent affirmation of the Palestinian condition of resistance and refusal, an ode to the steadfastness of a nation. Palestine is a microcosm of the world, on fire, stubborn, fragmented, dignified. While a settler colonial state continues to inflict devastating violence, fundamental truths are deliberately obscured. The perpetrators are coddled while the victims are blamed and placed on trial. Why must Palestinians prove their humanity? And what are the implications of such infuriatingly impossible task? With fearless prose and lyrical precision, Mohammed El-Kurd refuses a life spent in cross-examination. Rather than asking the oppressed to perform a perfect victimhood, El-Kurd asks friends and foes alike to look at Palestinians in the eye, foregoing both deference and condemnation. How we see Palestine reveals how we see each other, how we see everything else. Masterfully combining candid testimony, history, and reportage, Perfect Victims presents a powerfully simple demand: dignity for the Palestinian. So I'm excited for this book. Okay. I'm adding stuff that I didn't add for the last read. Pretty Girl County by Lakita Wilson. If you did not know, I am from Prince George's County, Maryland. And while in Minnesota, of all places, I found a book about PG County. So I had to get it. Girls like Rhea Samuels always come from Prince George's County. Rhea is rich and she's not afraid to show it. She's wearing designer clothes, drives a custom pink Audi, and lives in a neighborhood tucked behind a fancy cast iron gate. She works hard, but she gets anything she wants with a snap. Summer Watkins is from Seat Pleasant, where the cast iron gates are significantly smaller and attached to the windows, and most folks are still trying to make ends meet. Every day for Summer is a hustle, spent working at her dad's bookstore and and using her art skills to scrounge up enough scholarship money for her dream school, Spelman. Rhea and Summer used to be BFFs, back when Rhea used to live in Seat Pleasant too. Now the girls are from different stratospheres, but when Rhea desperately needs help to prove to FIT admissions offices that she has what it takes to make it in fashion, the only person who can help is Summer. Rhea promises she'll pay her services so Summer can afford the school her parents can't. As the girls work close, they slowly begin to trust each other again. But when new relationships test them, Summer's dad's bookstore is suddenly in danger of closing. Old wounds open up. Can the girls find a way to repair their friendship and stay true to themselves along the way? Again, PG County. I have to get it. And my last hopeful, The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. So Piccola Breedlove, a young black girl, prays every day for beauty. Mocked by other children for the dark skin, curly hair, and brown eyes that set her apart, she yearns for the blonde hair and blue eyes that she believes will allow her to fit in. Yet, as her dream grows more fervent, her life slowly starts to disintegrate in the face of adversity and strife. A brilliant examination of our obsession with beauty and conformity, Toni Morrison's virtuistic first novel asks powerful questions about race, class, and gender with the subtlety and grace that have always characterized her writing. These are the 4 books I want to read in September. I was like, next month, in September. I would love to read more. I'm very much so a mood reader, so you guys might see this in the next video, for like my next month video, or I'll be done and you'll see them in the wrap. Fingers crossed that I can get through all of these. My goal is 5 books and I only listed 4, so I'm kind of leaving that 5th one up to chance. I am glad you guys made it to the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you read in August, and let me know if you read any of these books I mentioned. Let's chat in the comments. Thank you for always liking, subscribing, and commenting. So appreciative, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.